Well, each Christmas tree is different, filled with ornaments that can mean a lot and be really special to your family. Today's quirky good question is, how did the tradition of the Christmas pickle start? Here's Victor Puente with the answer to that good question.
Well, if you've never heard of the pickle in the Christmas tree, the idea is a pickle ornament hidden in the tree. Whoever finds it on Christmas morning gets an extra gift or maybe just good luck for the rest of the year. But where did that idea come from? There are a few popular origins that may just be myths. The first attributes the Christmas pickle to a German-American soldier who was taken prisoner during the Civil War. Supposedly, he asked for a pickle, and that kept him from starving. The second is a little more grisly. It involves two young boys trapped by an evil innkeeper in a pickle barrel. Luckily, St. Nicholas comes to their rescue. Now, what is known is in the 1880s, the Woolworth Company was importing German-made glass ornaments, and the story of the Christmas pickle began to spread as salesmen shared the tradition with would-be customers. The only issue is it doesn't actually seem to be a German tradition. USA Today reports that in December of 2016, a survey found that 91% of Germans had never heard of the Christmas pickle, although it could have been a tradition in only one small part of the country. Whatever the origins, the Christmas pickle has now become an American tradition. If you have a good question, just email us, goodquestion@wkyt.com. I'll see you on WKYT Mornings.